Good evening, brothers. My name is Ken Alfred. I am a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Tri Sigma chapter, Washington, D.C. I'm happy to be here this evening to talk something about stress and how to manage our mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. Professionally, I serve as the Systems Director for Behavioral Health at University of Maryland Capital Region, which comprises of 3 big hospital systems, and everything behavioral health comes my way. So I have a lot to say today, things I've seen, but also giving hope on what to do when you're confronted with things that affect your mental health. So let's take this journey together, and I hope from today's presentation, you guys will have some tools and skills necessary to negotiate the era and times that we're living in. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, stress. I named this, Dear Stress, Let's Break Up. Stress right now is the biggest cause for anxiety, mental health issues, and sometimes even death among our people. So I'm going to talk about what is stress. Well, as you know, stress is a normal part of life. We all have things in our bodies to negotiate stress, and how you perceive and react to stress is also very individually based. It is impossible to eliminate stress from life completely. Remember, stress is your activator to get up in the morning, to pay bills, to do school, to pick up your family, your children, to actually be part of the normal human experience. You need stress as a motivator. The problem is, stress can also, too much stress, can also be detrimental to the body, both physically and mentally. I want to talk a little bit about what stress looks like for our county. So we talk about Prince George's County in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, we're not doing very well in the area of managing stress. In my behavioral health world, as I manage behavioral health issues across the system, we are seeing an epidemic increase in domestic violence. Families that are now forced to be together are fighting each other. And it used to be just spouse to spouse abuse. We're seeing family to family, mother to father, child to parent, older parents. We're seeing an exponential increase in the amount of domestic violence in the county. We're also seeing increased depression, suicidality, particularly our suicide rates are increasing among young African American teenage girls. They're finding more lethal methods of suicide, namely gun violence. Just last week, we had 3 13-year-old, 19-year-old, and a 20-year-old who successfully suicided by use of guns, and African American women. This is unprecedented, and we're also beginning to see more substance abuse, particularly PCP, alcohol abuse, 30% increase in our rates from when we tracked it from last year. So you can imagine, people's way of dealing with stress is not having these conversations. They're either internalizing them and they're becoming fatal, or they're using substances to negotiate stress. So it's time for us to all take a pause and think about where we are. What is your stress level? How would you rate it on a scale from 0 to 10? And I'll tell you, if your stress level is averaging between a 9 or 10 every day, it is probably a time to have a talk to anyone, a mental health professional, so that we can help you manage stress better. Today's presentation will give you some tools and skills you'll need to manage stress levels between 5, 6, and 7. But again, a 9 or 10, please, 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 don't be afraid to reach out to someone professionally to support you in your journey. Let's talk about the chemical effects of stress on the body. For most of you that know this or don't know this, we have 2 chemicals that affect us when we have a stress reaction. The biggest one is a stress hormone. Your body releases it pretty continuously throughout the day. It's called cortisol. Cortisol is like a steroid. Usually it heals the body. So if you are runners or do some physical activity, cortisol itself is good because it actually heals the body when you sleep. The problem is, as you are exposed to more stressors, cortisol is released in doses that can actually harm you. And and that's not a good thing. So we want to talk about how we manage cortisol. We want the good cortisol because we want to be able to heal from working all day, walking all day, and injury. But remember, too much cortisol that you will activate because of stress can actually harm your body. So let's talk about how we manage that. Just think about two terms for stress. There's eustress and there's distress. Eustress is the good stress. That's the stress that, again, I've already mentioned, that gets you up in the morning, that gets you motivated to do stuff, that gets you going, and you're motivated for life. Distress is when there's an excess amount of stress that actually can harm your body and cause you physical problems. So, eustress, I think of the term seize the day. Like, I'm going to make this the best day possible for me. That means I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to do my Zoom calls, I'm going to be a Zoom patrol master, I'm going to do things with the children, I'm going to see my friends, and I'm going to do what I have to do to survive the day. That's the good stress. And that stress, cortisol, will get your body ready for that day and then the day next to it. Okay? The good thing about eustress is that it motivates you, it focuses your energy, it's very short term, it feels exciting, and you feel ready to go to work and improve your performance, as cortisol is a stimulator for the good stress. So let's talk about good stress. Eustress, again, it gets you excited about life. It's your incentive to get the job done. I kind of phrase it as seize the day. So when I wake up, the glass is half full, I'm ready to go, I'm invigorated, I feel like I can complete the task that I have in front of me, and I have the motivation and chemical stimulation to get it done. So that's the eustress, the normal release of cortisol to help you manage the day. And what's the advantage of having this good stress? Well, it's short term, it gives you focus, it feels exciting, and of course you improve your performance and you get the task done. And just an example of eustress, just say like we're getting to know somebody we really like, a new friend, a new colleague, a new romantic interest, staying the course, like you might have deadlines to complete, you might have projects you want to do. Eustress will keep us going through the tough times. So that cortisol release, your body and your mind are in sync, and you are successful in completing your task. Now let's talk a little bit about distress. So we talked about the good stress. Now what is distress? Well, this is negative stress. It can be short term or long term. It's outside of your abilities to cope. So this is overwhelming, impending sense of doom. That means you have an increased level of cortisol, and this is the kind of stress that can hurt you. It can be caused by anxiety, or I call it worry, the worry wart. You worry to the point that you can't control that. It's the inability to cope with things that are maybe in your abilities to or outside of your abilities to cope. You feel unpleasant, your performance is decreased, and then ultimately you'll have mental and physical problems because of this excess cortisol release or this negative stress. So now that we kind of categorized the eustress and the distress, how do we manage stress? That's the question, right? So there's 5 simple ways. I'm going to teach that today, how we can manage stress. First of all, stress again is unavoidable. So please don't forget that you will have anxiety, and particularly with the COVID endemic, some of that anxiety is actually healthy because it keeps us safe, keeps us socially distant as we need to. It keeps us doing the right things we need to do for infection control. And above all, it keeps us with managing our day-to-day so that we can ultimately survive all of this. Okay? The first thing we do, we know one thing, the number one thing to control the release of cortisol, where it's not so much cortisol release in your body that it hurts you, is 20 to 30 minutes every day of physical activity. We know that physical activity can be, you don't have to be a Olympic level athlete to get the results of decreased stress. This can be a walk around your block. This could be simply raising your heart rate. It could be push-ups. It could be increasing your rate of walking, your length of walking, or anything you do physically 20 to 30 minutes a day to get the heart rate up to produce a low level of sweat is considered the best way to decrease the release of cortisol. So please note that. Put that in your notes. Like, I got to do something physically to make myself avoid the bad cortisol that can hurt me. Okay? And we know, if you ever heard of runners, they get this runner's high. That's a release of another hormone called endorphins. We know your body eventually will adapt to this physical activity, and this will start to feel good for you. So develop whatever that is for you. This is a long-term studies they've done, scientific-based, evidence-based proof to decrease the amount of cortisol, increase your level of physical activity every day. Okay? Second thing you can do, and I'm going to actually teach this today, it's called meditation. Meditation means a lot to different people. Some people think they just think good thoughts, that's meditation. Or some people go into this powerful yoga zen, and that's meditation. What I'm going to teach you today is something in between those two things. First of all, the way you want to start with meditation is by learning how to breathe. So if you look at me, I'm going to take a breath through my nose, okay? I'm going to hold it for about 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to release it. So through my nose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then release. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to meditate. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to go into my safe place. So my safe place happens to be, everybody wants to do the beach, right? The beach. Well, I do like South Beach. So I'll put myself on 1st Street on South Beach. I'm at the Marriott. I can walk outside to the beach, right outside from the hotel. And there I am in the sand, in the sun, and the ocean is right in front of me. So here's my image. It's in my head. I want you to pull your image. And now what we're going to do is take that deep breath through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and release. My feet is in the sand. My hand is in the sand. My body feels the sun. And I hear the waves crashing. Take that breath through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, release. I can feel the hot air. I can see birds around me. I hear the ocean, the waves. I see the Carnival cruise ships that I can't get on. But above all, I'm in a safe place. Breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and release. I'm in my safe place. No one can take me away. One more breath. Through the nose. 1, hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, and release. Open back up. Back to normal reality. I really get into this mindfulness activity. I honestly forgot I was taping this, but this is a great way for you to release stress. If you could do this maybe 3 or 4 times a day, my God, your cortisol levels would drop, your blood pressure drops, your pulse, all those things that increase activity for the heart drop. Go into your safe zone, practice those deep breaths. The next one is a little bit more challenging, but tend and befriend. This is where you create human bonds. Now notice, social isolation keeps us safe from the virus, but it hurts us mentally in our mental walk. So if you can't physically develop a friendship with a family, try to use technology. Like Zoom, for instance, is a great way to have a phone call via Zoom. You can do a virtual option with Zoom, Instagram, social media, any of those things that you can physically talk to people, foster that connectivity, and then support your mental health is great. Isolation is detrimental to mental health. So that's going to be said that. And Now that I said that, make sure you make the connections needed to support your mental health by befriending folks that you can. Physically, if you can, of course, social distancing with a mask, but if you can't, using social media as the media for interaction. Number 4, laughter. Have you had a good laugh lately? And that's a good question because a lot of people don't laugh. Studies show that laughter has physiological benefits to the person's mental health. It also decreases the level of cortisol. So if you find your favorite show, my favorite one happens to be Saturday Night Live. The first 5 minutes, not the whole show. I laugh. It's funny. And I probably, if you could measure my blood pressure and heart rate, you would see it decrease because of me being caught up in the moment of laughter. Learn to laugh at yourself, at others, but it is a therapeutic tool for you to decrease cortisol and stress. Okay? And then lastly, here's one I like, music. I know we will have some music playing in the background on this one, but music is a way to decrease cortisol levels. It is an evidence-based way. So when scientists measured a person's response before music and then after music, they actually measure cortisol release. Study shows that music that you love decreases cortisol. And that could be, for one person, it could be trap music. For another person, it could be classical music. For another person, it could be jazz music. But whatever that music is that gets you to a good place of safety and support, activate it. So that could be you putting your earpods and your iPods in your ear and then listening to music that produces happiness and decreases the release of cortisol. Okay, so just in conclusion, we talked about the 2 stress. Good stress is what? Eustress. Bad stress is what? Distress. And overwhelming stress can hurt you, right? It increases cortisol, that hormone that can actually tear your body apart. Cortisol is a steroid like prednisone, and too much of a good thing can increase your heart rate, can make your bones brittle, it can increase your metabolism, it can ultimately cause you early death. So that's why you want to stay away from too much cortisol. The good stress, however, is your motivator for life. And we know in the COVID endemic, we can't avoid everything. However, we can control the amount of stress that comes our way by using the tools that we provided. Earlier, we talked about the different ways to manage stress. Physical activity, number 1. Number 2, meditation, and we learn how to breathe and go into our safe place. Number 4, we call 10 and befriend. Find a friend using social media or physical activities as indicated. Number 4 would be laughter. Laughing is a evidence-based way of knowing of how we use laughter to decrease cortisol and bad stress. And then number 5 would be using music as a media to control our stress. Those are the 5 tools that you can use to survive the COVID endemic. We don't know when we'll have a vaccine, and we don't know when this will go back to normal population movement after COVID, but we can manage the stress we have, and we can have a successful and productive life. God bless. Thank you.